Ever in my entire life have I thought I'd be doing a video on Maradona. I was recently in Naples and I was dumbfounded to see his face literally everywhere around me. Diego Armando Maradona is one of the greatest athletes that ever walked the planet. If you're in a non-football crazy country, think Michael Jordan. And that takes us right to the crucial point here. You would not struggle at all to remember Michael Jordan's teammates. Scottie Pippen. It was only because he played along Michael that Scottie is not remembered often enough as one of the greatest ever. Even though the Bulls didn't have a dominant big man like Shaq or Hakeem, they had Dennis Rodman, a 7-time NBA rebounding champion. Add to that a couple of Hall of Famers, where even Tony Kukoc, who has won everything, would often have to come off the bench. Did I mention Ron Harper? Steve Kerr? My point is, they often say Pippen was Jordan's Robin. Well, Maradona had no Robin. He was Batman and Robin, all in one. Enough comparisons. I really don't want to disrespect anyone, and especially not to start a debate who's better, Maradona or Pelé, Maradona or Messi, and so on. All I'm saying is the little fella had no Xavi, no Iniesta, no Busquets, no Piqué, no Suarez, no Ibrahimovic, no Neymar, no Ronaldinho next to him. Again, if you're from non-football crazy place, these are Scottie Pippens and Michael Jordans in their own right. Imagine defending against Bulls with 2 Jordans and a couple of Pippens. With all due respect to Maradona's teammates, but it was him who he had to pull for the team, for the city, for the entire country. He started in the obscurity of one of the poorest areas in Buenos Aires. Gifted like no one before, he was sensational at the age of 15. He was sensational at any age. He was just too good to stay where he was. Offers were made for him left and right, and he moved to Europe, to Barcelona. He had to endure tackles like no player before him or since, and yet he never dived. And contrary to most star athletes, he rarely complained with referees. But when enough was enough, he fought back with venom. 2 years later, at the peak of his career, he decided to accept an offer from Napoli. And this is where today's story starts. How does, by a large margin, the best player in the world move to an underachieving club such as Napoli was at the time? Yes, he moved to Napoli for the world record transfer fee, but he could have easily gotten that at other clubs too. He could have played for way bigger and richer clubs, but he didn't, because he was different. In Barcelona, Diego felt estranged, and maybe Naples gave him that sense of belonging, so important to the man who has never forgotten his roots. Now, Naples is a city with a complex past, and in the 80s, things were just not getting any better. Neapolitans are proud people, and it just wasn't easy for them to ingest feeling dismissed, rejected by the Italian mainstream. Nobody likes to be put down, and people are getting disheartened. But now, Maradona was there, and the magical synergy started to happen. Little by little, the Argentinian transformed Napoli into a title-winning side. And as they start beating the northern teams, and not just any teams, we talking some of the strongest Juventus and Milan teams in history. People all over Italy started asking themselves, what's going on? Life in Naples also has its challenges. And it's in Naples where Maradona found a world that is totally new to him. which led him to make mistakes. The same mistakes made by other humans before him and since. And then came 1986 and World Cup in Mexico. In 1986, few believed that Argentina can win the World Cup. They were not a bad team. There was Burruchaga, there was Valdano, who I loved as a player. He now writes books. You should read his books. But most people don't remember names of any of Maradona's teammates. On the other side, there was Brazil with Zico, France with Platini, super strong England, defending champions Italy. Did I say Germany? The perennial favorites. Well, Maradona made sure he was the only star of that World Cup. In the quarterfinal, in one of the most explosive games in history, in front of some 115,000 people, Maradona scored 2 goals. The first one was a handball. Was it fair? No. But that was the only way for a 5'5" Maradona to beat a foot taller English goalkeeper. Ask yourself, if you were as vertically disadvantaged as Maradona, would you pass on this opportunity to get even with a big guy? Maradona later called himself a thief for the way he scored that first goal. But he did what he did for his country. The goal will always be remembered as the hand of God goal. But only 4 minutes after his first, he scored the second one. And that one became known as the goal of the century. He dribbled past 5 English players and the goalkeeper like they weren't there. Argentina won the game 2-1 and went on to win the 1986 World Cup. No one in football history has single-handedly led a failing club to a championship and his country to the World Cup. Yet, Maradona did it. The king was crowned in Mexico City. And thank God I'm of an age to remember Diego in the 1986 World Cup. Transformed into a great patriotic leader, 4 years later, Maradona led Argentina to the second consecutive World Cup final. They lost that one 5 minutes before the end of the game from a penalty that you're free to look up and judge for yourself. Back in Naples, things took a turn for the worse. Fame with no precedence in history of sports and chaotic lifestyle started to take its toll. It's always been difficult to be Maradona, but now with drugs, lawsuits and subsequent bans, things were getting serious. Yet, in 1994, Diego answered his country's call again, as opposed to the 2 World Cups earlier. The 1994 World Cup brought us the strongest Argentina team ever. Other countries sent out some great teams, but none of them were their strongest teams ever. That means Argentina were the favorites, and that by a large margin. In the opening game, they destroyed their opponents 4-0, and Maradona scored one of those, well, Maradona goals. While everyone talks about Maradona's goal in '86, it was this goal that reflects the very spirit of the Argentinian way of playing the game. In short, the goal was spectacular. Argentinians won the second game too, and just when it looked like they were cruising to their 3rd world title, things took an unexpected turn. Maradona was tested positive for a banned substance and sent home. What really happened, I guess we'll never know. But the fact is, Maradona was way politically incorrect to represent the face of the game they were trying to sell to a new market. He ruled the game on the pitch, but sometimes things are not decided on the pitch. The preferred narrative just didn't have place for him. Maradona was never liked by the establishment, and he disliked them back. He had to pay. It looks like the cancel culture didn't start in the 21st century after all. Many years later, Argentinians put together another great team, this time with personalities way more in line with the big business agenda. And they got their World Cup back. Back to post-94 World Cup. It's pretty safe to say that from this point, Diego's real downfall starts. Take the game away from him and he can't keep up with the pressure of being Maradona. Who could? People were scandalized with things he did, but look at the post-career of way less famous athletes. There is something in the papers every day. The point is, he wasn't weak. It's just the weight he carried was too much for a human. And Maradona wasn't just anyone. He was the icon of his century. Still, all those years, he never ran away from taking responsibility. He was the man. It took his death in 2020 to realize that people never forgot. And even with Maradona dead, his presence is still as strong as when he was alive. Was he the best ever? Well, he certainly had all the intangibles. He transcended the game. Diego created connection between people. And that's why in Naples he's more popular than ever before. It's just Napoli's way of saying he's bigger than anyone, and he's one of us. Because for Neapolitans, Maradona is not an Argentinian. He's one of them, a Neapolitan born in Argentina. He's embraced in Naples because when Maradona was alive, people were happy. In the South, you give a name to a baby after one of the family members. Now, how many kids named Diego do you think there are in Naples? That tells you everything. He is 1 million Neapolitans in one body. Poverty and problems have created this sense of insecurity with people. It's tough to love yourself when you neglect it. Yet, he led Neapolitans to love themselves. And not just Neapolitans. He was the voice of millions of suppressed people in the world. That's why he will always be remembered by them. There's a reason he's so loved. He was the liberator. Neapolitans just want to make sure that his story doesn't get forgotten. Maradona was easily one of the most charismatic figures in history of sports. He inspired every team he played in and defined Argentina like tango, mate, or asado. Much like he's the face of Naples today, just like pizza, or Vesuvius, or Sophia Loren. In Italy, in his own words, he raised the flag for the south of Italy and did it with the Neapolitans against all odds. Neapolitans feel privileged for having Maradona and will be thankful forever. He is and will stay a constant presence in the life of the city and its people. Every other great player in the history of the game is a champion. Maradona is the hero.